as so let's get started. Aloha Chad and Pomai.
Aloha no, aloha from Waimea, Hawaii. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that whatever it is that we share with you folks today will be of some use to you, and hopefully it continues to enhance the vibrancy of our lahui. And so with that said, we are all going to go ahead and participate right now as we get makoko for our opening. I'm just going to turn my computer around a little bit. We are on the campus of Kanuoka Aina because one, that's where I work, and two, with what we have to share today, a lot of the preparation and the work took place here on this campus with our hamana. And so today we address Mauna Kea, our piko, the center of who we are in this Aina. Our vai here in Waimea comes from Kohala. In the area, Kawainui, Kohakoha, Waikoloa, and Alakahi, which is in this side. But and then we have our resident Nene. But Mauna Kea is positioned here, and Mauna Loa is here, and Hualala is there. Kohala, Haleakala, and of course Kanaloa. So aloha nui to all of you from Waimea.
Unihi ka hela ka mauna I luna, Mauna Kea hoala makua no na hui hoku. Ka peke peke ke la la veri ana e ko, ke na ka ko I ke hi hea ka mai ka hameku. Hai ali ka ni uina ka neo ko ulono, olono I tale ono e tomo. Ia mai la o ni no hi manu ke anu he anu hau ke hau li ula leo ka pe ki o ke ho ka wi ke ha e ni nei ano aia.
Mahalo. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And so as we make our way back inside, and the reason why we're closest to the gym today is because we are going to be cooking today. And we're going to be cooking some really awesome stuff. Mea ola that we took with us on our most recent journey from Hawaii Island to the Kupuna Islands of Mokumanamana. And a number of years ago, just to go ahead and get the story started before ʻOnohi joins us in his story, a couple of years back, I want to say about 10 or 12 years ago, it became really apparent that for us in the voyaging community, and I'm just going to use Kauai High, Hawaii Moku with Makaliʻi as an example, that we needed to change our diet, right? And I'm not sure if anybody else has that kind of an issue, but we definitely needed to change our diet. And so, especially when we're voyaging, 30 days on the ocean, everything brought to us by community. And guess what kind of food we had, gang? All of it was ranch camp food. So if I say that, ranch camp food, and I want to just also start off by saying, this is very interactive, so please join us in the chat room. We also call it the canoe corner, because you can jump out, throw all kind of stuff in there. But who do I mean when I say ranch camp food? So help me out, put that in the chat. Who would that be? I'll give you one example, Vienna sausage, okay? So who else would be that? Who else would we find then in our day boxes and in our food stores, right? So we would find exactly spam. We would find, okay guys, Dinty Moore beef stew. I never knew who that was. I grew up in Waimea, Kamaina to ranching. We get all of our own meat, and then I have to go get us stew. We have to eat stew out of the can, and I was like, what is that? Like, how does that even work? So can you imagine just having that question, right? It does something to your brain, right? Something to your psyche. It's like, oh, how do I do that, right? And then sometimes it's like, that's why you need mayonnaise. You got to put mayonnaise because you're not really sure who this is, ano kama'aina ya'u to that mea ai. And so our ohana and our crew members who became family members really started to say, hey guys, I think we can do things differently. Let's do things differently. And I have to say there was an amazing example in Papa Mau. Yeah, Chad, he was excellent at telling us at every voyage that I've ever seen him be on, you guys, he would bring his own food. His family from Oahu, from Hawaii Island, from all around the state, they would come together and they would make all of his food, and that's the food that he would eat with him on the voyage. So he didn't cross the boundary of eating of eating spam. He didn't cross the boundary of eating Vienna sausage or, pork and beans. He stayed true to him. And I thought, we just kept thinking that was such a beautiful way, right? He was continuing to eat the ulu, continuing to eat the kalo, continuing to eat the coconut. So he stayed within his lane. He stayed within his boundary. And what it did, though, was it helped him to be the absolute most amazing ho'okele on the va'a, right? And so when we're trying to, from the va'a, connect from our place on the position on the canoe out to all of the different kupuna, the elements that are helping us to get to our destination, you want to be in the most absolute, create the most absolute sacred space, so that that energy line can connect with those and help us to get to where we have to go. Kind of amazing, yeah, when you think about it like that. So with that said, Chad has a really amazing story to share with us that moved us from just this idea of doing something different for us, right? Because we can look at the examples of our lahui, and then at the same time, as a practitioner of the canoe, we have to do that for ourselves too, right? We have to empower ourselves to be better. Yeah, we have to make the change for the family, right? We couldn't necessarily rely on others. And so with that said, we're going to share a little mo'olelo, and then we have a video to share with you.
Well, it was funny that, as Pomai was saying, as over the years, as we sailed with Mau, and as she said, he was just a awesome teacher to us, a friend, became our father. But the lessons that we learned from him, one lesson has to do with food. And like Pomai was sharing that, we would always see before the voyage, someone would bring these baskets, these woven coconut baskets, which were loaded, which we came to understand was his food for the voyage. And, it was on one of these voyages that we were sailing, that after we were about 3 or 4 days out aboard the canoe, and we were all eating, as Pomai said, spam with Vienna sauce, something, whatever it was that we were eating that day. And I would see him, we called it his apartment, where he would stay on the canoe. We called it his apartment, so he'd be in his apartment, and he was eating something. And I got up enough nerve to ask him, "Papa, what you eating?" And he just kind of looked at me, and of course, he told me, "Why, you like?" And I told him, "Yeah, I like." So he took this thing, and lack of better description, it looked like a potele, because it was wrapped just like a potele. And I thought, oh, it's interesting, he's eating potele. But when I opened it up, I was like, okay, that ain't potele. But he was eating it, so I said, okay, I asked for it. So I bit into it, and he was watching me. And when I took that first bite, I was like, oh, this is so ono. And I kept on eating it. And then I looked at him, I said, "Papa, what is this?" And he told me, "Mar." I told him, "What is mar?" And he told me, he had to think for a little bit, then he said, "Ulu." And I said, "Ulu?" He said, "Yeah, ulu." I was like, "But you call mar?" He said, "Yeah, we call Sarawak language mar." I said, "Oh." I said, "So this is what you take on the canoe?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "On our island, this is the canoe food, but this is the food also when he said, we call this our famine food, because if you know Sarawak is a very tiny atoll. The highest thing on this island are the coconut trees. So when the storms come through the islands, they wash right over the islands. So their resources get obviously washed out with the storms as well. But this mar that they make, this ulu, and the way that they prepare it, when they cook it in the imu, after that they bury it in the sand, because the sand is the coolest place that keeps it cool. The sand is like their refrigerator. So they're buried in the sand. And what I came to know from him was that it lasts up to 5 years.
Wow.
I was like, 5 years? Yeah, he said they've only known it to last for 5 years because by then they eat it all. You know? But the whole thing was that I asked him, so how you make this? And he said, when you go back home to Hawaii, because his niece that lives here in Kona, he said, you go ask Angelina. She teach you how to make. And that always stuck with me because here is a people that lived on a half-mile wide, mile-long atoll that could sustain themselves still yet. 800 people live on this tiny atoll. Yeah, you can imagine, half-mile wide, mile long, 800 people. But they sustain themselves and they thrive as a people. They're just not trying to get by. They're thriving. No homeless, no anything else. They're people that are thriving. So that was an example to me, like, can we do this still?
And so from that point on, it really became humbling, right, to realize that if Papa could be that person for us, like many of our kupuna. And so I'm going to ask all of you folks to join us right now. And if you will, can we bring into this space somebody who you know that was instrumental in helping you to find your way? I have to say that experience alone led to the question that Chad posed to Kuainapa a number of years ago when he asked the question, is it possible for us in this great modern time to provision just one canoe for one voyage with resources grown, harvested, and processed on our island? And so with that said, I ask for all of us to join in and call to space potentially somebody who's been that kind of a beacon for you. And if we call them into space in just our thoughts, in our heart and in our na'au, and we can also intentionalize their names in this, again, the canoe corner, in the chat box. Please go ahead and share them and think about them now. And so in that, what we did, that was in 1999 when that experience happened for Chad. And so here we are in 2001. In June of 2021, 1991. In June, I graduated that year. Don't do the math. Anyway, in June of 2019, Makaliʻi left Mokawe on the island of Oahu for Mokumanamana, fully provisioned from the island of Hawaii with foods that were grown, harvested, and processed for our food day boxes, 25 days, 4 meals a day, including snacks, fully provisioned. And that was such a huge, huge, huge experience for us. And so it is because of the people that you bring to the space, it's because of the people that and their intellect that we're able to do something like that. And so with that said, in a nutshell today, we're going to do two things. We're going to introduce you to Hanauna'ola and who Hanauna'ola is for us in the context of Aya Mo. Where that comes from is the ingesting of those things that enable our continuation, our continued ability to live. And not just the two of us, but all the pula that come after. And the same for all of you. So we'll introduce you to who Hanauna'ola is. We're going to introduce you to the foods that we took, and some of it is absolutely mind-blowing. And then Chad is going to chef us up something to eat. And calamari, we got to eat it on this side. But once you figure out, and you guys figure out what this is, then okay. So here, yes. Okay, thank you.
Our training continues where we just try to do all we can from the land. The land crew is probably more important than the ocean crew because that's where the resource comes from, that's where the family is. That's the home. Voyaging really comes from your community and the strength of your community.
From Makaliʻi's beginning, it was our community that helped to make Makaliʻi a reality.
Our goal is to be 100% local ingredients, fresh or preserved, what we have here, and we can totally do it. The entire island, it's so huge. And each portion of it is contributing to this voyage. And each area is so special in what they can produce and what they are working on. Here at Canoe, just to give you an example, our garden coordinator, Heather, she has set up each classroom to grow a different crop that will be put into a vegetable soup. So my position here at Canoe Aina is garden coordinator, and help them grow beautiful gardens like this. Actually, the kids are like, we want to grow this and that, and we kind of let them choose too. It's not particularly me saying you're gonna go this. Like, what would you, if you were Nova, what would you be ono for? You know? And so they were a huge part of what they're growing too. So we have a lot of things that we harvest here for our teas that we're already processing. This is our lemongrass, also known as wapine. It's good for high blood pressure, cholesterol, when you're muggy. So it's an awesome plant that they definitely wanted to have on the voyage. And then we have some lemon verbena. This is one of the favorites of the kids, also a very lemony flavor. So we got some basil here. And then our nioi, our chili peppers. We have a lot of our edible flowers. You can see all the different colors. That's dianthus. And then some luau that we're going to eventually process for the va'a too. Actually, our first class taught 15 teachers, kumu, kupuna, and samakua, and we taught them how to preserve. So we did pressure canning, pickling, jams and jellies.
Schools now are looking to put food on their shelves for their schools. We never even thought of that, but you know, they're seeing the possibilities that they can do now. So that's exciting.
I give thanks to Uncle Chad who asked the question originally, is it possible? It was a scary question. And I'm glad that we all said yes and went 100% gung ho.
At one time when things were unsure that they'd be able to do it, and now whether it's through the Aipono, through creating the food for the wa'a, now they're excited about doing it, and they're excited about, you know, what's next, what else can we do? We're really looking at our own health and how could we do better for our future.
So we've been teaching the students of schools in our area how to do those things, how to preserve, how to provision for a canoe. In terms of cordage, we've also taught our kumu how to.
Okay. So with that said, that was the beginning of Hananaola. And so I ask you folks, or do you have any questions when you look at what you just saw? Are there any questions on your brain about what does that mean that you preserve food? Right? What does that mean that we did things a little bit differently? What does that mean? So today, what Chad is making for you now is what you got here, Mr. Paishon?
Right now, just mixing up some banana flour. We made some, the kids processed their own flour and from the green bananas. And this is what we took on the canoe with us instead of taking pancake mix. We took banana flour, we took ulu flour, we took kalo flour, and we used all those things. So we're just mixing some up to make some pancakes.
So we're making pancakes with green banana flour. And many of you could potentially be absolutely kamaina to that. We were not kamaina to that at all. Okay. Half of a moku, a nice moku bunch of green bananas makes 2 cups of flour. 1 moku, half a moku, 2 cups of flour. And so that's one of the things that we did was we, in Hananaola, we made sure that we took everything that was only grown and processed on Hawaii Island. So let's think about that, guys. Okay, in the chat, help me. Can you give us an answer, please? In the chat, real quick, okay? What percentage of food is imported from someplace else? What percentage of food is imported from someplace else? Ready, set, go. And then the second question is, What condiment do you put on the following foods? Hot dog. Go. I know, I love mustard on hot dog, you guys. I absolutely love mustard. Okay. What condiment do you put on chili or beef stew? Go. Right. Okay, so when we started this project and we told the crew members everything had to come from Hawaii Moku, they're like, wait, so what about rice? It was like, okay, if you're growing the rice, perfect, bring it with you. Okay, but what about mayonnaise and ketchup? If you're making the ketchup and you can make mayonnaise, perfect. But the tofu has to come from Hawaii Island, and they're like, tofu? Or the eggs and oil gotta be made on Hawaii Island, and they're like, wait, what? So we had a lot of that kind of debate within the ohana, you guys. It was pretty hilarious. We also did not take with us like breakfast eggs, right? Breakfast eggs. What goes on breakfast eggs? Especially the kind omelet with smoked pork and onion. What goes on that? Tabasco. So we couldn't take Tabasco either. Couldn't take sugar. I mean, yeah, sugar. We couldn't take syrup. All those things that we took had to be made here. They had to be grown here and made here. So I tell you, the process of it, we had to learn the process. So with that said, just to move us forward. This right here is samples of everybody that we took with us on the voyage. This right here is an amazing carrying case, and please tell me if you guys can see it or not. You guys can see? Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
maybe just a little lower.
Okay, perfect. Better?
Yes. Mahalo.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is a carrying case, and this carrying case is absolutely amazing, you guys, because this is how it works. We have all these jars. Okay, so we swap out the cans, right? We swap out the cans for mason jars. Okay, and then once we swap out the cans for mason jars, then we have to figure out what process is going to work best for us. So the process that worked absolutely best for us were three things. First thing, this right here, this bag right here, is a bag of freeze-dried pua'akalua. Yes, gang, freeze-dried. Freeze-dried pua'akalua. Okay? We got the freeze dryer from the company Harvest Right, and we started to learn how to use this pretty cool technology. Little bit expensive, but in the end, it ended up with all of these different foods. Okay, so freeze-dried kalua. And how is it gonna be possible for the weight of the can that we normally take to actually be less by what we were gonna take with us? And so we debated, how are we gonna package the soups? How are we gonna package the freeze-dried luau or the pressure canned food? And therein lied our answer. Pressure canned happens in a mason jar. So was the mason jar able to carry all of our freeze-dried foods? Yes, it was. So between the Mylar bags that provided by the company, and this right here, you guys, is from Hui Mau. So Haley and Noeal, they made this right here, patele stew. Okay, this is freeze-dried. Okay, right here we have stew luau and ulu. This is freeze-dried. Okay, right here we have freeze-dried luau. Okay, right here, game changer, kalo, or haloa, freeze-dried. Right here we have, bok choy from Kanuoka Aina. Right here, this is pressure canned. So I'm gonna have you guys guess, and hopefully this picture does it justice. Okay, this is a vegetable, grows in the valley. We like to eat it with onions, tomatoes. We like to eat it with cuttlefish. Who is this? Ovaikeia, who is this? Ho'io, Makaliʻi, and this one is freeze-dried. Okay, this right here is a beautiful chicken, carrot, and ginger soup. This right here is a vegetable soup. Okay, so this carrying case and the fact that it could handle, and that these bottles could handle the pressure, really became a game changer for us. Also the beautiful thing about this carrying case is it has a top and a bottom, and it's easy to close. So there you go. Our everyday carrying case on the canoe is about the same size. And so now here you go. So as an example, let's just say all of us together, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a dish in the morning with kalo, luau, and then we want to add egg to that. So here we have a packet of freeze-dried eggs. Okay, so I don't need to take, I know you guys, and the thing tastes good, because when I first heard about this, I was like, whatever, it's not gonna work. Okay, I've been the cook and the quartermaster on the canoe for a while, and I was like, whoa, how is this gonna happen? I know, my face was the same way too. I was like, what? So you add a little bit of water. So for 2 raw eggs, you add 4 tablespoons of water. It'll reconstitute, and then you just fry it. It's kind of nuts. I know. Okay, so that's eggs. So you can go ahead and pack all of your food here. And so with that said, some of our absolute favorites that I was able to work on with my kids here is smoked pork. Of course, you know, we all come from Ohana that hunt and do all those kinds of things. So this right here is smoked pork, and hopefully we'll make some of that for you guys in a little bit. Please go ahead and put any questions you have in the chat, and you can even unmute if you like and ask questions. But right now, here's our banana flour pancakes that Chari is whipping up for us. A little bit more dense than lina or cowboy pancakes, right? Not as light, but the bug is ono with butter and honey. Butter if you make it. No, I'm just joking. Honey and any kind of mac nut butter. So I'm gonna go ahead and maybe stop right there and just ask if anybody has any questions for me right now. You could totally have Paishon.
Pomai, there was a question in the chat, and they said maybe this is for Uncle. He's asked, what was Papa Mau's preserved ulu stored in?
Okay. So the question, hon, is what was Papa Mau's ulu stored in?
So when they would make it on island, normally they would put it into an eke, and because of the harvest of the ulu, because when they would make it, they would make it for the whole island at one time. It wasn't just per family. They would make enough to feed everybody on the island. So they would store up the ulu. So if you're ma'atu eating really ripe ulu, the ulu that's really soft, that you can just squeeze it and it comes out of, the skin itself, that's what they make the mar out of. Yeah. So it's really, they use banana leaf. So it's almost like a patele. Yeah. They'll get it to the consistency, wrap it in a banana leaf, then they'll put it into the imu and bake it in there. So it comes out pretty much, it's almost like a patele. That's why I said the first time when I saw it, but it's wrapped in banana leaf, and they'll usually tie it with, they'll usually soak coconut fronds. They'll strip it down to small, and they'll use that to tie it. And so, but yeah, next time we'll get mar for you folks.
So therein lies right the total package again, yeah? They're still utilizing everything from Aina to be able to create food packaging. And we tried with Lauhala. And I think, this is only the beginning of what we're doing. This is not the end. This is something that is not new to many, many people. It definitely is new for us. And like I was saying, as a voyaging family, it's important that we also start to try and find our way, right? What's going to work for us? What may work for some people may not work for us. This carrying case, I believe that there was a question about the carrying case. So the carrying case, okay, gang, so this was a game changer, I have to say. The carrying case, we found that we could hold about 3 meals. And part of the reason for that is vegetable soup. We only needed 2 of these now, 2 to 3 of these, instead of 6 cans of corned beef, 3 bags of mashed potatoes, 4 cans of corn. So we only needed 2 of these to feed 14 people, or 3 of these to feed 14 people. And because we didn't take rice, and we only took pa'i'ai and poi, or ulu as our starches, those came out of bags like this. The poi was made by Keawe and Ka'iulani. We had 5-gallon buckets, and they have these really cool vacuum seal covers that you press all the way down to the contents of the poi, kept everything fresh. The pa'i'ai, Mau's niece, who Chad referred to in his story, who we worked with on this project as well, she taught everybody after we finished making the pa'i'ai how they dusted the outside of it with coconut flour or ulu flour, and it became really nice and like palawa after they had dusted it on. So really what the crew members, and one more, again, I keep referring to them as crew members, but really they're family members. What the family members started to describe was that the staple, the starch, the ulu, the poi, or the kalo, the uala became the staple, which is kind of a neat concept. And the food, the soups, the meats, and those kinds of things became the relish. On top of the really amazing stuff that like Hi'ile folks made for us and Gooch made for us, as far as all the little poke that you put on top. So with that said, are there any other questions? I'd like to.
Another question was, how is the flour made?
Okay, so the flour, green flour, I have green banana, but I think I left it over there. So basically you cut off the green, and it has to be green because you don't want sugar in it yet. Yeah, so you cut down the middle of the green shaft, the skin, take the skin off, you cut them into small pieces like you would for into slices like you would for banana split. Put it in a dehydrator. So you put it in we use the Excalibur, that works really, really well. Put it in a dehydrator, 110 degrees for 12 hours. And if you want to go a little bit longer, you just lessen the temperature. And that's the thing about these machines nowadays too. They have all of the calibrations and the formulas. Put it in a dehydrator. We took it out of the dehydrator, put it in the Vitamix. And then you sieve it through a strainer, and if still got pieces, put it back in again. And then after that was done, we put it into a vacuum seal bag, and it's good to go. Descatin. Okay, so with that said, in regards to banana, here we have our banana pancake that is garnished with kanoaka and a McNut butter. So just McNuts in I tell the kids it's called a Cuisinart, and I make all of them go like this, Cuisinart, and they all try it. So let's try that together. Ready? Put your fingers together, and there we go, Cuisinart. I don't even know if this is correct. But, and then some honey from right here, I made a pool cup of honey. And poor guy, he got to try it for us, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you have to watch me.
And so with that said, that is a great question. How do we go ahead and process and it's the same with the ulu and the kalo. They all have a little bit different variations based on who they are and the kind of starches that they have at the time. And that also was the beauty of it, was having to figure everything out. So a couple of things of note. We did not tell everybody they had to grow this or this or this or this. Our question to Hilo was, who do you have? What kupuna do you have in your area? What kupuna do you have in Kona? What kupuna do you have in Waimea? And then whoever everybody brought was who we made the meals out of. And this was a really good way, you guys, for us as a voyaging community to recognize the value of community. A lot of times everybody's running around and trying to get us makokau for a voyage, and sometimes people still don't know how to kokua. The pule, the lei, the being there to help us load, those are all really amazing things, and we cannot do it without the community. But so many people in their homes, in their families, make all kinds of different foods. And so this really gave the community a chance to make and bring what they were doing and who lives in their backyard. And it really helped us to recognize that the canoe cannot go anywhere without the community. And in order for us to provision one canoe, 14 people, 25 days, 4 meals a day, we needed the community to do that. We are very kama'aina to bringing and purchasing all of the food, bringing it to the canoe, putting it in boxes, and putting it on the va'a. In this way, we needed to prep all of those meals 6 months ahead of time. We needed the mason jars. We, we needed the carrying cases. We needed to get and connect schools and community resources. We had 10 schools involved, and we had a number of school resources. And so it was really, really important that we go ahead and network with the ohana of the lahui to be able to make this happen for us. I know Uncle Chad makes that look so good. The carrying case, this thing is amazing. So we take a Tupperware container, and our biggest issue was the glass. I have to say, our biggest issue was glass. How are we gonna take the glass, and how is nobody gonna get hurt? And this is fall tested. It's fallen on the ground. It's had major casualties, but the box held up. I mean, unless of course it's a really big crash. It actually held up. The other thing we had to remember was this has to get heated to a really, really high temperature. And because of that, it's really sturdy. So some of the things that happen for us is, what would happen is the glass containers also helped us to reduce our opala, right? Because in the way that we didn't have opala, right? We never took that because all of this actually contained all of our mea'ai. So because it contained our mea'ai, we came back from this voyage, and I laugh about it all the time because in my brain it's hard to conceive because I wasn't there. How much rubbish did you guys bring back from the trip?
It was less than it was maybe the size of this bag. That was it. Whereas opposed to other voyages, we've had 4 to 5 33-gallon trash bags full of rubbish. Because
we're taking the plastics and we're unwrapping everything out there and trying to and we wash them and the cans, and we bring that back. Now Chad is also eating something for us right now. Can you share what we got here, please, sir?
This is something else that we freeze dried that we kind of surprised our crew with. So I'm not sure if you can see what this is.
They cannot. You gotta tell them.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Tropical Dream ice cream.
Freeze-dried ice cream. Freeze-dried ice cream.
So when the crew were asking, because some made coffee, but we didn't have cream to take.
Can you take it out, please?
So yeah, it's freeze-dried ice cream. It's I guess when we were kids, everybody called it astronaut food. So this Tropical Dream ice cream here in Waimea gave us 3 to 5 gallons. I don't know if you can see this in my hand. There you go. But we just took the ice cream, put it in the freeze dryer, and then put it onto the Mylar bags and took it as a little treat for all of the crew. And since it's just us, it's our treat. I mean, yeah.
Oh boy. So any other questions out there?
Pomai, I had a question in regards with dehydration and I think I when I dehydrated Olena, I left it in the jar and then it started to get moldy. Did I not let it dry enough? And did that ever happen on the va'a with you folks with the heat or condensation to the jars?
Yes, we can go through. That's a great question. And I think there's a lot of practitioners out there who may be able to answer this question a little bit different from me. But in our neck of the woods, and I think I should turn around. In our neck of the woods, the way that it worked was descaten became a really big deal. And so that's these little packets. And I'm not going to take it out of the kalo, but it's it's the descaten packs. These guys too, game changers, right? Because they're the moisture absorbers. And I think it depends on, sometimes it could be because we didn't dry it enough. Yeah. Sometimes, and there's still a little bit of moisture in it. And so We want to try. We always, us personally, always wanted to make sure that we're able to get the majority of the liquid out and then use the desiccatin. Now some guys out there might know a little bit better if there's places in Hawaii that carry this, but for us we have to order from away. So it's not readily available here at home. Yeah. And so that's a great question though. Okay, freeze drying. There's a great question in the chat. How do you get a freeze dryer? You know, mahalo nui. So this Hanana grant, we were able to be a part of that through an ANA grant, and 3-year grant. And fortunately enough for us, and to be absolutely open, and just very grateful, when I sailed so sailing on the canoes, we've been using dehydrated food for a while now, and that's been an absolute game changer for us. But in this last voyage, when we sailed from, oh gosh, where were we going? Tahiti home, Uncle Bruce had gone to Utah and was able to bring back all of these freeze-dried buckets of food from some companies in the mainland. And you know, when you open up the carrots, you put it in the water, it was carrots, like absolutely great carrots. And same with the broccoli and the corn. So you had a lot of fresh vegetables there. And so when we came home and we started to work on this project, that was one of the things we talked about, was that we knew the buckets were out there. And so I started to bring them to the school just so I could share them with my students and try and see if we could do that here. So the freeze dryer became something we wanted to do. And so Keala Kahua Nui, who was Chad's partner in this whole process, and they worked a phenomenal job for Nakala'iwa'a in the sense of getting our community ready. And also in the work itself, they researched and found Harvest Right. It's a company called Harvest Right. Now, that's only one company of many. And then we were pleasantly surprised that there were a number of people in Waimea that had them. A lot of times it goes back to food storage. So now what we're finding is we can use the freeze-dried food for food storage. We can use the freeze-dried food because the pressure can food, they last for a little bit, but then you got to eat them for a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah.
Normally, when you pressure can something, it usually lasts. Well, they tell you from a year to 2 years, and then really, in the other side, is freeze drying. Freeze drying because of the process, because it just removes moisture from the food, that it keeps for up to 25 years if you freeze dry. And as far as food processing wise, between dehydrating or canning or freeze drying, we found that freeze drying holds the most nutrition in the process. Because canning, like Pomai mentioned, is at such a high temperature, it kills everything, kills the bad germs and the good. So, but you do have food that, like we mentioned earlier, but yeah, the freeze drying, 25 years shelf life. So basically, we could make things for our mo'opuna, you know, in their time, that they could have things that we processed. So it's just that side of having the ability now to really look at our own foods, and like Pomai was mentioning, food storage wise, it is possible.
So it does cost a little bit of money up front, and yet at the same time, one of the things Keala would tell us all the time was, "Oh, I just got off my blog with my Harvest Right friends, or I just talked to the Harvest Right peeps, or I just talked to my hui of people," and they are scattered throughout the world, but Facebook. And Facebook, but they were amazing at helping us to problem solve. Amazing. So for Chad and I, we're looking to get one for our own household, because it's something that is kind of essential, we think, for us, especially with the way that the Aina is starting to, that the world is starting to operate. And right, we're all collectively establishing and reorganizing our own potential norms, right? We're creating our own norms based on what we want as a lahui, based on what we want as a people. Any other questions? Oh, there's one in the chat. Does this make you rethink how Malama Honua would be done again? Malama Honua in the sense of the voyage, yes. Well, no, not the sense of the voyage. Malama Honua in any voyage going forward, yes. One of the things our community and our Ohana of the Va'a talks about is not being able to go back. And what we know, like I said earlier, is that this is not something that we know very much about. We're learning about this process, and we're praying that everything that we've done so far and are grateful that everything we've done so far got us to this point, right? But there's still so much to learn. So what I mean by that as an example is we did some of our EMT on-campus training, and in that on-campus training, we did a sim, and in that sim we realized that on campus no more food. So if we have to go into lockdown, what do we have in our pantry? We don't. So then we decided to start to build up a pantry. So the schools, some of the schools, Rod Flora I think is on this session, and Rod Flora and his students of Keawe campus, you guys, they raised the chickens. They had Nakalaiva go out and help them one day when it was time to process chickens. And his brave students, they processed those chickens with the uncles and the aunties, and they put them in the freeze dryer. And the chicken went on the canoe. And they were able to eat that with ulu and onion and du'o and greens. Rod Flora and his students, they actually helped us to pioneer the ulu. Like 40 pounds of ulu eventually equals to 17 pounds of ulu, freeze dried. And so kind of amazing. Okay, so the other beauty of freeze drying that Chad was very eloquent in sharing with us was, like I mentioned before, on the canoes, I've been the quartermaster and a cook. And one of the things that it would do is, you guys, it would take me sometimes 45 minutes to an hour and a half to prepare one meal, depending on what it was. Taking into consideration the movement, right? And the environment that we're in. So I asked him one day, how long take? He said, one meal, fully po, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Because remember, we're looking at the contents of the jars. A lot of it is already made. So you got to reconstitute that which is freeze dried, or warm up that which is pressure canned. And then when you're looking at all the things that are brine and pickled, that's all probiotics, right? So those are already made and they're being fermented as we go. So they just get better every day that the ocean passes under the hull. So with that said, we're going to just do another quick demo just so you can see how this goes. So this right now, because this is my absolute favorite. Okay, this is smoked pork. And I'm happy about this smoked pork because my kids had made it. Okay, that's good. But the kids made it, and so this is what it looks like. Okay, it looks like that. And if I was to hold it up, you can see it in my hand. Oops, sorry, no, you cannot. Yeah, you can see it in my hand. It just looks like a chunk of meat. I know, it's almost hard to see. But now what we're gonna do is Chad's gonna go ahead and simmer some water on the stove. He's just gonna simmer some water on the stove. And so this process is gonna go really quickly. It's really kind of crazy. Okay, so just gonna simmer some water on the stove, and when we get to the point to put it in, then we can go ahead and check it out a little bit more. Any other questions? Okay. There's a lot to be said. I think probably the biggest transformation for us, because I think it's one thing to talk about Hanaʻonaʻola and sustaining voyaging for the generations. That's the definition that we gave it and that presented itself to us. But eventually you have to become that. And so for Chad and I, how that's transformed us is our garden at home has become really, and who knew that I cannot say who knew the pandemic was coming. What I can say though is that we all collectively knew that the earth was going to be going through a process of transformation. And so in that process, we were able to help ourselves start to grow our own food. And Khalil Manuiwa and Maya asked the question, right? How do you ku'oko'a? And so for us, one of the ways that we ku'oko'a is make sure that the foods that are in our meals at home, that at least 2 of the meals that we eat have Mau.ai from our garden. That's the way that we do that now. And so that in itself is one way that we hanauna ola. So here the water is simmering, and he's just gonna put a couple pieces in there so that you can see. And magically, Chloe, tell me if you cannot see, okay, please. Magically, as they go,
Good, sister.
okay, they're gonna start to reconstitute. If it's dehydrated, it'll take a little bit longer because there's a lot, because it's just, it's beef jerky. But because of the freeze drying, it actually will start to break itself down pretty quick as the makani starts to pick up.
Pomai, I had a question with the calories and the health nutrients and intake.
Yep.
Does it change as it's freeze dried, or even more so more healthier?
Our understanding of the research is that it's actually more healthy because it's like flash freezing. So as an example, one example, we take beans out of the garden. If we're not pressure canning it, we wash it. We can put it into the freezer right from there, straight into the freeze dryer. Yeah, so it's almost like flash freezing. And then that's a great question. And if Rod Floro is on, please, Rod, by all means. But you can see that it's already starting to reconstitute itself. And it's already starting to smell like smoked pork. Or smoked meat. This is smoked meat. It's not pork, I can tell. Oh, man. So it's getting its boil on. And pretty soon, all of that aila is going to be nice and juicy again. You guys can see that. All right. So as we go ahead and start to put that together, any other questions as we start to? So I think at the end of the day, with that said, Hanauna Ola really has taught us to be absolutely more conscious about what it is that we do as individuals in our own household. But it's really also helped Nakalai Va'a, who is part of this Ohana Va'a, is part of the Ohana Va'a, to figure out and understand for ourselves what contributions we're actually making to the community separate of being on the ocean. Yeah, because the canoe comes from the land. The canoe comes from Aina. So because she comes from Aina, regardless of if our Aina extends out beyond and through and over Moana Nui Akea, we still have kuleana to Aina. So if we have kuleana to Aina, then what is the kuleana and who is the kuleana and how do we go about helping to shift and change, helping our community to evolve in times like this when we have the ability to create our own norms. So I think by far the voyage was successful. We were able to do all of these amazing things on the voyage, and more especially learn plenty about ourselves. At the end of the day, it still comes back down to our family and our community, because the canoe cannot go anywhere without the community. And so really mahalo nui to stories like that of Mau, to food buckets that come from Utah Agasan, freeze-dried food that came from the mainland, because it really taught us to trust in ourselves. So big ideas, big picture ideas. We're hoping, and I was asked about this, I've been saying this, and I just told Chloe this the other day. You know, I think about Uncle Neil because I can hear him saying, write your values proposition, and do the next step. And for us, the next step would be to, instead of going online and going to ReadyWise or going to Mountain, going to Agosan or going to all of those companies and asking them for their freeze-dried food so I can put it in my storehouse. I pray and I hope for all of us, we pray and hope for all of us going forward that we're able to make our own storehouses, where we get into a time of shortage and we can go ahead and work with the farmers and work with the ranchers and start to take some of their yield and put that in the storehouse so that when our families need it, we don't have to rely on shipping. Yeah, we can go ahead and have that here and they can have the freeze-dried kalo that came from Honoka'a or from Kauai or from, you know, Kaneohe, or they can go ahead and get the fishing poi that Hi'ile made in the pressure canner, right in the same bottle, and they can get some of that. And so that is our hope, and that is our prayer, and that is something that we need to look forward to. And so with that said, you guys, here for you today, we have our banana pancake with pukapu honey and macnut butter. And we have our canoe Aina smoked beef that is ready for tacos. So, you know, with that said, unless there's any other questions, I believe our time has been used. It has been a pleasure to share this space with all of you folks. You have anyone else to share?
Just mahalo nui for the lessons and being able to continue to learn, to being able to continue to grow for all of us, for La Hui, for Pai'aina. You know, our islands are va'a in themselves. So if we can care for our va'a, you know, whether you know it or not, our Pai'aina has 8 large voyaging canoes. Yeah, there's at least 1 canoe on each of our islands, except for Moloka'i and Lanai. But it's really in that sense that our homes become that va'a, that we're able to do this for our canoe to feed 14 people, 25 days, like Pomai said, 4 meals a day plus snacks, and everyone thrives. You know, that hopefully we can continue to do this for our families at home, and that we can take care of ourselves and thrive like our kupuna did for us. And mahalo nui for the opportunity.
Thank you all. Chloe.
Mahalo nui, Chad and Pomai. Oh, this is mind-blowing eye innovations, and just looking forward to what is to come. Please keep us in the loop.
Yeah, mahalo. And you guys do the same, yeah? There's a lot of things that people are doing out there that we have no idea about. And so to all of you folks, to every one of you guys that are in the process of ho'oulu hui every single day, mahalo, 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 because really it just empowers all of us to do and to create our own norms. Thank you to everyone who's sponsored this this conference. It is absolutely amazing to see everybody. And again, if we were sitting in a conference room, there is no way we would have been able to jump. And that's the best thing about it, is jumping. So yeah, 2 feet together. Olumua.
Mahalo, friends. The chat for our last keynote session is in, or the link is in the chat.
Okay,
go ahead and check it out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Mahalo.
Yeah, what up? Thanks, everybody. We home.